Hello, readers, writers, and critically minded people. I'm Britt Ryderly. Welcome back to Writer's Ambition. So, to those of you who are returning, thank you for sticking in. For those of you who are just finding my humble channel, welcome. We hope you stay a while. So, in the last episode, we talked about excuses that white authors often give about why they can't write non-white characters. And I'm not the type of person to tell someone that they're living in a barren wasteland and not point the way to water. So here is me pointing. For all of the writers to be, and racially homogenous readers out there who ask your friends of color, how do I read differently? How do I write differently? How do I know differently? Da 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 da. Here it is. 1, be the architect of your own horizon. It is no one's responsibility to educate you but you. 2, read more diversely. And please don't ask, like, who, because there is a level of arrogance to that question that you seriously can't think of one non-white writer. If you can think of one, start with them, see where it leads you. And 3, the purpose of this video, read more white people. So, what do I mean when I say read more white people? I am talking, brace yourselves, I'm talking about critical whiteness studies. Now, I know that people are going to be like, Britt, you're too much. This is creative literature. It's not sociological. That sounds like a lot. Why do I have to do that? Well, because if you're going to try to do what you have never done, you're going to need to do what you have never done. You're going to have to widen your reading parameters. You got to bust them jokers out. So you're going to need to read beyond what you have. Why can't you just read Morrison or Alice Walker and say, okay, let me read a black woman who's written about black women, and that will sort of teach me how to write black women, and then I can do the same thing for every other race and ethnicity. Why can't I just do that? Because you were neither Alice Walker nor Toni Morrison, and any attempt to do so would lead to catastrophe, and Black Twitter will not be forgiving. So, you have been warned. So, I'm suggesting that you start with critical whiteness studies, and it's not as hard as you may think. I even compiled you a short list of books. So, critical whiteness studies, just for some background, critical whiteness studies is not new. It's about 3 decades deep. Actually, it's ongoing, and it's not just black scholars or scholars of color writing about whiteness. White scholars write in critical whiteness studies, and that is a good example of how to do this work responsibly. It doesn't matter what genre you're writing in, but if you want an example of how to do it, critical whiteness studies is a good one, and you don't have to be as daunted as you may initially feel. You might try reading The Wages of Whiteness by David ROEDIGER. It's from 1991. Like I said, not new to this, but you can try to be true to this. Critical Whiteness Studies, it's a reader from 1997. So it's a collection of essays. So they're not book length. It's a bunch of essays collected into a book. It's edited by Richard Delgado and Jean STEFANCIC. Possessive Investment in Whiteness by George LIPSITZ. That's a really good one. It's a really good one. And then 3 more recent ones, because Possessive Investment in Whiteness from 1998, although George LIPSITZ is still writing. So The History of White People by NELL Painter from 2011. Good White People, really good one, by SHANNON from 2014. And then White Fragility by Robin DIANGELO from 2018. All really good ones. Those last 2 particularly I like a lot, and they're very, very accessible. Like if you're worried about the language being elevated or too academic, Good White People and White Fragility are really, really good. And although White Fragility is a book, so it's like if you Google it, a book will come up because it is a book. But she wrote an essay first that you might also be able to access, and that thing's like only 16 pages. So if you're like, if I had to choose one, what could I read? I think that you should read more than one, but you could definitely read White Fragility by Robin DIANGELO. And Good White People is a really low-key, like, it's very accessible. You can read it. You can read all the rest of those too. I'm not saying that they're super dense, but I'm just saying these are more recent. they're super accessible, and that would give you some sort of comfortability to go out and do what you do. I believe in you. So again, you might be saying, well, I'm not convinced. I'm still saying these things don't have to be sociological, and you don't have to do all that. Here's the thing. We talked about Stephanie Meyer in the last episode. If you've created that sort of environment around yourself where you cannot conceive of non-white people, you can't conceive of them having the sort of adventures that you are talking about, then you do need a total overhaul. Because writers, sci-fi and fantasy writers, so in this same white fantasy genre that we were talking about in the last episode, although I don't know that I would call it Octavia Butler YA, but in the fantasy sci-fi genre, you have writers like Octavia Butler, Tenerife Drew, N.K. Jemisin. You have these black sci-fi fantasy writers who engage race realities in their fantasy, and there are white people there too, and it doesn't take anything from the story. It lends it texture and depth, and that's why people are still reading Octavia Butler and Tenerife Drew today. Like, Octavia Butler's last book was called not Kindred, Fledgling. It was posthumously published in 2005. People are still messing with her work heavy. Why? Because it's substantive. If we want to write novels, if we want to read novels that become classics, that have real staying power, your world has to extend beyond your nose. And I think that part of doing that is doing the work to read beyond what you thought you were going to have to. And again, when you do that work, that will be reflected in your writing, and you can still have sensitivity readers to help you and make sure you're not making a misstep. But if you want to write an entire world of your own, you need to know what's going on in the real one first. And if you don't know how whiteness is operating, and I'm not talking about like prison industrial complex and all other things, those things are absolutely important. But if you're not even understanding how whiteness is operative in your own life as a white person, as a white author, then you absolutely need to look at critical whiteness studies, because how can you write any other worlds when you don't even know what's going on in your own little corner of your own little world? You could probably write in your white characters better. So I'm really encouraging you not to get daunted by the work that it seems to do. And I'm also not going to be like, it's not a lot of work. It was a lot of work to write that book that you get to read. Like, critical whiteness studies is rigorous, as is any critical race study. So I just want to say, I don't want you to feel daunted to not read these books. I want you to read Octavia Butler, and I want you to read Robin DiAngelo. Like, I think that that's important. And if it sounds like a lot of work, it's because reading is a lot of work, but good writers read. And I'll say good writers read broadly. And if you're not willing to do that work, I honestly don't think you're worthy of the craft. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? I mean, if we're talking about the future of the novel and you can't even be bothered to read beyond what you know, I think the future of your novels are in danger. And I think that the craft of writing calls us to be brave and to tell the truth. And if you don't really know what's going on, your truth is always going to be the size of a thumbnail, your thumbnail in particular. So I would just encourage all of us, whether we're the readers or the writers, to engage rigorously beyond our known scope of reading, because I think it can really help us to write deeper, to read deeper, to ask each other and ourselves better questions, and to write characters that have a lot of texture and depth and staying power with us beyond the next trite publication. So, all of that said, you know what time it is. Let's hop over and see what Eliza Black and her motley crew are up to. It's story time.
7. Water has a perfect memory. After Toni Morrison. Great River is a tall, lean, and intent man. He sits like a tree planted him and moves as smoothly and swiftly as his namesake. Sitting on his porch that has hosted first loves, Friendly disputes, weddings, card games, barbecue, chatter, family history. River sees Belle and Laz coming from down the road. He knows, from the determined glint in Belle's deep brown eyes, that it's about his Lizzie girl. They say she was on her way home to see me. Why? You come to tell me. Belle climbs the familiar steps and produces a laptop which she opens and presents to him. River sighs and pulls reading glasses from the pocket of his corduroy slacks. Go on inside and eat while I'm at this. Leftovers from Sunday dinner warming on the stove. Great River places a halting hand on Laz as he passes the rocking chair. Shrewd eyes consider the array of beaded and braided bracelets adorning Laz's wrist. The young man fidgets under the scrutiny, but weathered hands move slowly and deliberately over the worn leather and yarn. A lot of bands at once, son. Mean something? Lizzie made most of these. More gentle inspection, almost like an invitation for Laz to say or do something, but he is still and silent. Go on then. You know Belle don't be leaving nobody no cornbread. Yes, sir. Laz can feel the man's sharp gaze following him inside, and it's all he can do not to adjust the bracelets. By the time he and Belle reemerge on the porch, Great River has closed the laptop. She was coming to ask me about my sister, Rain. Must have been. You have siblings? Belle asks in surprise. Twin. You'd never know it. She'd been missing 49 years out of trace. Lizzie told me about some dreams she'd been having. Said my dad helped her remember your sister right before. Laz aborts that sentence. Why did she think you could tell her about a cold abduction case? Probably because it ain't one case but hundreds all around the country. Besides that, I expect she'd be coming to ask me about the voices. You knew about the voices? Laz asks. Whoa, what voices? Belle rounds on Laz. She told you she was hearing voices? She was going to tell you. It was just easier to tell me because I would understand. I mean, I knew her when it happened and all. That's what got her took when she was a babe, following them before I realized she'd come into her hearing. Best believe I shut them up with Grandma Sealing Tonic soon as some miracle or magic brought her back to us. So the voices thing wasn't new to you, Belle notes. Oh no. The women in this family blessed in the ears, or cursed. Hear things that others don't. The tonic cuts the chatter. Rain wouldn't take it. Felt like she was turning her back on her birthright, and they took her because they knew she'd be able to stop them. Who? Laz and Belle press. Snatchers. Some plague that take women every 50 years, black women that is, disappears them, and they ain't never seen again.
Reach your full potential every Tuesday with Britt Riderly's Writer's Ambition. Then embrace adventure every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday with Eliza Black. Don't leave us hanging. We'll see you soon.